Now we'll move to the candidates in the at-large position, and we will start with Mr. Burroughs. You'll get the first question. What are your overall impressions of the direction of Morristown city government?
I feel like the Morristown city government has a great potential to make exponential leaps forward from where we're currently at. However, I feel like that there are some key issues that we need to iron out and we need to sort out in order for us to be able to do that and to take those steps. Several of the key issues that we really need to look at, because number one, we need to look at what's important to our citizenry and what the citizens of our community and of our city want to see government complete and what they want to see us perform. One thing that I've seen is that the current direction of the city government, it seems that there has been a lot of directive that is given in order to complete projects, and the projects that we've all talked about, that it is apparent that raising taxes has been a big issue in our community over the last few years. I personally feel like one thing that we could see as a sign of good faith and a show of good faith toward the citizens in the community is we've got to give them some type of equity for the increases that we make in regard to our tax base and what we collect. I feel like that currently the city government has started a lot of projects that have gone unfinished, and we need to finish those projects. We need to finish what we start. If we're going to start it, we need to see it through. We need to get it finished, and we need to finish it with the bottom dollar in mind, to keep in mind that it's not our money that we're spending. We're spending taxpayer dollars that are coming in. We're spending other people's money. We're spending your money to go out and complete these projects. And I feel like that in order for us to connect with our citizen base, in order for us to connect and to be able with that and to give across, to show the world what kind of town we have and the leadership that we have, we've absolutely got to follow through with the things that we start.
Thank you. Mr. Pedigo?
What are the overall impressions of the direction of Morristown city government? I think that's probably the base question that needs to be asked at every election. Number one, we've got to have the impressions that we are doing what the taxpayer is asking us to do. I want to go back and mention what was said earlier in one of the questions about where does the city stand? Well, where the city stands in the direction that we're going in is the voter. Because of all of the positions that we have of industrial board, chamber of commerce, all of the different positions that are absolutely vital for us to be able to bring businesses in, we've got to be working with those people to see that to fruition. But what you have to remember is the city council and the county commission are the only two that are elected by the people. So we've got to be frugal with the dollar, make sure we're doing what's right. We've got to always be gaining. We've got to always be moving. If you're standing still, you're backing up, because we are competing with every city in the state of Tennessee that has the same population that we have. And we've got to make sure that we're doing those things to make people want to come, not only to live here, but to bring their factories here. And by doing that with the chamber, with the city, with the council of the county commission, with the industrial development board, with the movers and shakers in this town, it can be done. We've just got to make sure that it's always moving and moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you. The next question, and Mr. Pedigo, you'll answer first. Would you support an effort to make the city's garbage pickup self-sustaining, and why or why not?
Yes, I would. And I would because I think everything that we do should be as close to self-sustaining as it can be. That is the way you keep taxes down. is to make sure that stormwater, MUS, anything that we are dealing with is in a self-sustaining mode. That keeps the taxes as low as possible, because we need to be spending that money bringing in new businesses, bringing in new people, making sure that our city is the kind of city that we want people to come to. So yes, garbage pickup is very important. I think that we've got to do whatever we can do to make it self-sustaining. I agree with that.
Thank you. Mr. Burroughs?
Absolutely. The self-sustainability of any company and any corporation is the backbone in order to making that successful. And it to me is a benchmark or a notch in the belt for that being a successful enterprise or successful endeavor, is its ability to sustain itself within itself. Also within that, currently being able to make the city's garbage pickup and our trash collection self-sustainable also frees up a certain amount of revenue that we have currently that's going to fund these options, which in turn can be turned into some other projects that need to be completed in our city. I believe it's an absolute no-brainer that we need to make it self-sustainable.
Thank you. And the next question, Mr. Burroughs, you'll go first. In your opinion, what is the biggest issue facing the city of Morristown? What measures would you support to address the issue?
One of the issues that I've seen specifically working in and around the school system is the outlets that we currently have available to our inner city youth. Working in several of these schools, you can't spend much time in one of them without finding young people that you fall in love with them, and they take your heart. But the things that they tell you and the things they say and the things you hear them say, a lot of them feel defeated because they don't have an outlet. And I feel like that our major issue with our city is, if we want to grow young professionals, if we want to grow high school graduates, college graduates, people that will grow up here, people that will be home raised and will come back to this community and provide and produce within our community, our city has got to take an interest in the lives and in the future of these young people on a level that shows them that we care enough to try to make a difference. We care enough to try to make an impact for them. And by doing that, a big thing is that there's a push for a community center, the community center push to build this on the west end of town. I feel like that putting it on the west end of town is an absolute injustice to the kids that are in the core and in the center of the city that otherwise have no way to travel that distance or no way to cover that ground to get there. I feel like that it would be a great opportunity to give these kids an outlet to be able to go after school, to be able to have a place where they could go, where they could have a place where they could use that energy that they have bottled up constructively to things that would better them and give them betterment. It will also give us an opportunity to give back to these kids, to offer classes for English as a second language, and to help these kids to be able to know that they're cared for and they're supported by this community.
Thank you. Mr. Pedigo.
I think the issues that are facing Morristown that I could say that I would support would be the issues that we're dealing with now. I think we're on the right road. I think we need to spend time. I think it's very, very important that we make sure that we're doing the right thing. I like the idea of the children. I think everybody in here has heard the story about what Confucius said about if you plan for a year, plant rice. If you plan for 10 years, plant a tree. If you plan for 25 years, educate a child. And I think we're on the road to that position of making Morristown a better place than it is today. Hopefully, we will reach those goals, and by doing that, we will be bringing in the infrastructure. We'll be doing those things that need to be done so that we can do that. We've got to be sure that we're doing the right things, and I think we're on the process. The worst thing we could do is do something for a year and then stop doing that, and then do something else for a few years and stop doing that. Get yourself in a plan, and let's continue this and make sure that it works out. Education is the number one thing. Look at what we're moving the Public Works building simply because, for the main reason, is because TCAT needs the space. And the idea of tripling the size of TCAT is an absolute great position that the city of Morristown is going to be in. We have Walter State, which is known throughout the nation. We have East and West High School that's known all over the state of Tennessee. We are a great community. We just need to work our plan and let it work out, and it'll come to where it needs to be.
Thank you. The final question for this section. Mr. Pedigo, you go first. Given the opportunity to change one thing about city government in Morristown, what would you change and why?
I would do the best I could as far as the city government's concerned to bring a beach right beside the city limits. And I say that jokingly because I have, as president of the Tennessee Municipal League, as well as was Case Center, we visited all of the cities, as many of the cities as we could, across the state of Tennessee. And I can honestly tell you, in the cities that I have worked in, and the cities that I have visited, there is more potential in this community than there is in any one that I've ever been in. We have everything that everybody dreams of having. We have the mountains, we have the lakes, we have the education, we have everything we need. I can honestly tell you, the one thing I would say about the city government of Morristown is let's continue that process. Whether it's with Brandon Burroughs, whether it's with Bob Garrett or Chesney, he'll always be there, or Gary Harden or myself, continue the road that you're on and make sure that you stay on that process.
Thank you.
One thing to change about city government, I will absolutely second the beach. That is an absolute stand by second. I believe that over the years and watching what has gone on is that our city government has lost touch with not necessarily youth and children, but young people, young professionals. We've lost so much connection with the way that young people think, the way that young people work, and what we go through when we're in our mid-teens and our mid-30s up to 40. And I put myself in that category. And I see the potential there to be able to reach out and to provide what gives needs to these individuals to bring them in. We have doctors, we have attorneys, we have business people, we have engineers, lawyers that could come into this community and could start very successful businesses within Morristown. And in order to be able to attract them in, we've got to provide them the very basics that they need. Basics like a low tax rate, low property taxes, basics like services, recreation. We have such a potential for recreation in Morristown, but we go out and we look around and there's honestly not much here to do. When people come in town and they come in to visit, they come in, they say, well, where are we going to go to do something? And I was like, well, you have an option. We can go to Sevierville and Pigeon Forge, or we can go to Knoxville. There's just not a lot to offer in the means of recreation, in the means of nightlife. If you want to go out and have a late dinner, there's not a lot of options and opportunities here to do that. And I feel like city government could be more aggressive in the way that we attract, in the way that we court that potential demographic to bring them in, because those are the people who are going to be providing the taxes and providing the workload over the next 20, 30 years. We've really got to reach out to that demographic, and we've got to cater to that demographic.
Thank you.